We hope you are enjoying this special series of the Brentwood Academy podcast, Guided by His Hand. We want to thank each of you who have committed to pray as we enter this season of transition for our school. In episode 3 of this series, we hear from Head of School Search Committee members Sue Gehring and Nathan Brandon, who share an informative conversation about the search process and provide the latest updates from the search committee.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Brandon, and I'm the search committee chair. Been on the board of Brentwood Academy for 4 years, and I'm joined here today with Sue Gehring, an integral part of the committee and the board, but also a longtime Brentwood Academy faculty member, family member. So, Sue, thanks for joining me today.
It is a joy to be here. Thank you so much, Nathan. I think I'm really here because I'm the oldest person on the board at Brentwood Academy. I've been so blessed to be there both when Mr. Brown passed the baton to Mr. Masters, and now for the future when Mr. Masters passes the baton to the next head of school. I was able to work at Brentwood Academy as a math teacher and as a keyboarding teacher back in the day, and worked with the administration through both financial aid and admission.
Yeah, and a little story, when we came to Brentwood Academy, right, you actually interviewed us when my oldest daughter, Abby, came.
Absolutely.
And you brought me to tears.
Oh.
I remember that story as we're going through this. So what drew you to be or want to be, because I know you're asked to be on the board. So tell, if you would, just explain a little bit about what drew you to wanting to lead the school in this next chapter.
I think just knowing that this is a place that not only changed the lives of my children, but it affected the life of both my husband and myself in ways that I really can't even measure. The mission, of course, the statement of faith, the incredible people that leaned in to our children, to the fact that now our oldest granddaughter is a 7th grader here. So it's just that full circle of people who are relationally attached to our family.
Great. Well, I'm Nathan Brandon. I had an older daughter, Abby, graduate from here, and my youngest daughter, Anna Lynn, as well. So we came here, so many years ago, but in the 7th grade, right, I was asked to be on the board and serve willingly and lovingly to the school, because we, just like you, fell in love with the mission of what the school stood for. I think it prepares not only my daughters for the academic rigors, but also the spiritual warfare that's out there inside the community as well. And so I think it's a good point of when Kurt approached us. I think it's a good segue into explaining to the community how we got here and what the transition hopefully is going to look like, and what it will look like as we move forward. You know, you mentioned earlier when we were discussing Job Fit Matters. Job Fit Matters is a partner of ours who are working diligently and closely with us in the search for the head. And how I got to know them is when, if we back up a little further, when Kurt approached the board about thinking about this as the time frame. You just mentioned it. We've only done this one time before, so we really didn't have a process that we could put down on paper and follow it from a board's perspective. Right. So the board chair at the time, Eddie Lunn, tasked myself and an ad hoc committee, a transition committee, to create a replicable timeline that could be used to guide boards on framing and time frame of how a search should do. You don't ever want to get into this and you have a compacted schedule. Right. We wanted to make sure we had enough time to do it right, to do it with some discernment, and give us the best foot forward. So we got together on this ad hoc committee. We created a timeline. And before we even did that, reached out to a great mentor of mine, who's known by a lot of people in the community, Dick Wright. Yeah. And so I sat down with Dick, and the first thing he did was slide this manila folder across the table that was stacked full of papers and notes and books. And I just picked his brain, and he said, you need to reach out to some search firms. He gave me that information. I called them and said, okay, this is what we're thinking about doing. What do I need to know? And almost within each one, we're like, you need at least 18 months to do this. So we went back to the board with that plan, And out of that spurned a need now to go out and find a search firm.
Yeah.
And once we hit those mile markers, we went out, we interviewed 4 or 5 search firms. We narrowed it down to one we felt like was a great partner that could be with us.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we really zeroed in and honed in on was we wanted a partner with us that could take in 3 factors. Number 1, our mission statement. Number 2, our statement of faith. And number 3, our diversity statement. So you'll hear in the future and in some of the letters that we have communicated to the community that we will press candidates to that. We will not change the way we're going to do things. And to bring everyone up to speed, so far we've had a really, really good first look.
Yeah.
Let's say that. We've had national as well as international candidates. We've had them from the East Coast, West Coast, to the North, to the South. And it all goes back to what you talked about earlier, was the transition and what the mission is for Mr. Brown and Kurt Masters. Yeah. We have a recognition nationally, not only for high academic standards, but high spiritual standards as well. And so that's flowed very well through where we are today.
100%. And I thought it was so exciting that Job Fit Matters is so excited about the number of people that have reached out because they had relationships. They know Brentwood Academy. They know Kurt Masters. It's been a really neat thing to see them just energized by how many people have responded to our request for the next head of school application.
And it's been very refreshing. We sometimes get insulated where we are.
Yep.
Our paradigm is local, and we don't really realize what kind of things are outside what we can see. And so the next phase, we will start in earnest now. Yeah. We feel like that we will have a great slate of candidates here very shortly. From there, we'll narrow those down. We'll be a part of that, and we're hopefully that we can. Then once we narrow those individuals down, we can bring them here where we can have one-on-one personal conversations. Our prayer, our hope is that within that we find the candidate through God's wisdom and discernment that will lead the school into the next phase. And Kurt's been very helpful. So is Mr. Brown, to understand the history of what the school is. And I think most, if not all, the candidates that we have looked at up until this point understand that, what that mission is.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been so far as good. Then moving forward, to try to assuage some fears, I think, within the community is that we discuss a great deal of how and what we do is going to be looked upon within the faculty, within the staff, and also within the community. Yes. It weighs heavily upon our hearts. I know it does, as well as yours.
Absolutely. And the faculty and the staff that are currently at Brentwood Academy, what we want to do is make sure that whoever God appoints as head of school, that it's a person that they know that they can follow and that they can walk alongside with in the next step of Brentwood Academy.
I think this is a good point to interject, because I think the question is, who is Job Fit Matters? Who is it? So Job Fit Matters is a professional search firm that their entire focus is on Christian education, or the education space, I should say. The leader actually lived here at one time. Her name is Laura Coverstone. She now lives in Northern Virginia. Ed Poff is helping her as well. We have been thoroughly impressed with the way they go by interviewing candidates and bringing them and letting them know exactly who we are. I think that is one good point. That is that the school has a name. Yes. It has a tradition. It has some things that I think that the world, the community in the Christian education space really gravitates towards. So Job Fit Matters.
It's very attractive to people who are looking to make application. They are so attracted to our mission, to our people, to the relationships, and that spills over
Absolutely. And the great thing about with Laura and Ed is they believe in the mission. We went through some people, and I'm not really sure that they bought into who we were. And you want someone to walk alongside of you, sit on the same side of the table as you are. And
Absolutely.
so, as you said, the sphere of candidates has been really, really eye-opening.
They were so excited when they showed us the numbers of people who have heard about Brentwood Academy, have known Brentwood Academy, and can't wait to make application to our school. They had not seen numbers like that very often in their many, many years of looking for heads of schools.
Mm-hmm. And so that, that's a testament to what has been built here. I think I can give some data, I guess. I mean, there were probably over 1,000 different individual eyesights on the opportunity profile.
Yes.
There were a little over 800 or so as far as the video that we sent out. So we went, I threw it all over to my LinkedIn. I wanted people to see it and to know, the way that the process transpires on their end is we gave them the charge of, we want to do a national search. Mm-hmm. National could be in your backyard, but it also could be national. We didn't care male, female, what ethnicity you were. Our goal is to find the very best person to sit in that chair and to guide the school. And so we even had an international candidate.
Yes.
So which is phenomenal that you've got a reach that's across the globe somewhere. And so when we got some of these numbers, I think I would, you can speak for yourself, of course, but I think I was somewhat shocked that we had that presence.
I was so excited just to see that, and just to know that even CESA, the Christian Educational Standards Association, they know our school. They know Kurt Masters. They know what we're about. And so it was really, really a time of just being thankful and grateful for the people who show interest in our search.
Yeah, we told, I think, when we met or we chose Job Fit Matters, one of the things that we pressed upon them is make the top end of the funnel as big as possible.
That's right.
And then we trust them. They're our partner to go through this with us, to then sort out candidates based on the opportunity profile, the videos, the numerous interviews we've had with each of them. And they understand who we are, what we're looking for. And so we let them go through their process. We are coming to the point where we do expect a first round of candidates shortly, I would say. And depending on that, then again, the timetable is going to ramp up pretty quickly. And I speak for me, I'm pretty excited about what we'll see. And if you'd like to interject into that as well.
I think you're right. I believe it's fair to say that maybe the October timeframe is when we're really going to see some things that we can take a look at as a search committee and go back and forth with Ed and
Laura.
Thanks, Ed and Laura.
I talk to them more often than most people. But I think we try to we give dates or phases, and those are ballparks. We try to stay inside of those. We know we've got Kurt until June 30th of next year.
Right.
But also with that is we don't know what the candidate comes in, what we're going to be hit with. They could be currently in a role now.
That's right.
Well, what does that we want to get? When we go through the process, you want to do it with integrity.
Right.
You want to make sure that candidate they will give his board, his school, so that it's a small world, and we need to treat it as such. And so far, I feel what we've seen is phenomenal candidates. We have had high level discussions in regard to certain qualities of candidate that we like. We haven't seen individual candidates.
Right.
We will let Job Fit Matters do that. That's what they do. We have jobs. We have other things to do. And then we will circle back around, and then we will narrow that pool. We will bring them to the area. They will not come on the campus. We just can't afford to do that personally. And so they'll come to the area. They will interview personally with the committee.
Yes.
And then from there, the committee will then reconvene and we will present a candidate to the full board for their approval. And once that happens, there's a whole nother chain of events that takes place after that. And we will do it as diligently and as openly as possible up until to that point. But when it happens, it's going to be an exciting time in the school. Yeah. And so that, we come into the new year, our hope is that we will have a candidate that we can introduce to the community. And I think there's this, will we get a chance to meet them? Well, sure. I will tell you the next phase along this is, which will run in conjunction, is we will create a transition committee amongst members of the board, members of the committee, amongst the community, and then use that transition committee then to make sure that the new head is a success.
Absolutely.
We don't want to go through this and then not have a successful tenure for the next individual. We uprooting families and things of that nature. So there'll be multiple opportunities for the community, faculty, staff, the community to meet with this individual. If you go back and look in the past, the way Dick gave me a great blueprint, they brought in Kurt. Brought in Kurt for months in advance so that he could get acclimated, so he could see what does it mean to be in the Brentwood Academy community.
I remember that so very well, and it really gave all of us that were faculty and staff at the time just assurance that he and Cindy, it was really important that we got to meet Sandy and know about his family. I think those kind of relationships are going to be things that our faculty and staff are going to be very interested in knowing about and participating in to the level that it's appropriate.
And and so we invite. Yeah. We earnestly do invite our faculty, our staff, the community, absolutely, to reach out to us. I mean, there are things that we can divulge, but I think it's good to know that also through this process, we have to keep some level of confidentiality amongst these candidates. Because remember, if we look at 15 and we only bring in 3, there's information about 12 and their current employer that we just can't divulge. And so I would hope that the community would trust us.
Yes.
That
trust is huge.
Yes. And so moving forward, that's when we get to that new year time frame, things are going to move really, really fast. Yep. They're going to go quick.
That's right.
And so that's where we're going to need everybody coming together to welcome this person and their family to be a new Brentwood Academy Eagle.
That's right. What a great, thrilling time we can anticipate with all of that.
Yeah. So tell me, and when the transition went from Mr. Brown to Kurt, you were on staff.
Right.
What did it feel like? What were some of the feelings that you had that I know some of the people out there now are having?
I think first and foremost, we want to know what's going to change. And is it going to change tomorrow? Or are we going to get a chance to know Kurt Masters and what his plans are for Brentwood Academy? And I think the best thing was that nothing changed immediately. We felt like, first and foremost, Kurt wanted to know who we are. He spent an exorbitant amount of time meeting with families, meeting with board members, meeting with faculty, so that he could know who we are, first and foremost. Relationships, we can't say it enough. That is one of the differentiators, that and Jesus Christ in our schools. So we knew his faith, we knew his faith walk, and we felt like we were in hands that were going to take us very well through the transition. Did
you feel like at the time that you were given, because the group that led the search the last time was much different than it is now. Yeah. I mean, it had a student on there.
Yes.
It had members of the faculty. It was very well known that Mr. Brown was leaving.
Yeah.
And this time, not so much.
Right.
So did you feel like going through that process that you were given enough vision into the process, what was transpiring? And then I'll try to address the way we were currently doing it now.
Absolutely. I think it was a little bit more open back in the day. And if you recall, the first time they brought candidates to the board and to the search committee, there wasn't a candidate that fit exactly what we were looking for.
That's a great point.
they went back to committee and said, we don't have our leader, our head of school yet. And so they went back to the drawing board, worked hard, came back with Kurt Masters and Cindy. So obviously that was a time of a little bit of angst, but just trusting that we weren't going to take anyone until we knew that was God's appointed person to lead our school.
It's a great point. Times have changed, and we have to address that piece as well. I mean, it was been when I did, and the committee went out and looked for partners to go along with this. The one thing was best practices was it's members of the board are on the committee. We did move away from that a little bit because the way the structure is here at the school, if you may not know, is that the board of trustees has one employee. Mm-hmm. That's the head of school.
Right.
We don't get into the operational issues. We are much more strategic in the way we are looking. We're more over the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point now. We're not only going through a head of school search, we're reevaluating our long range plan as well. And what does the future for Brentwood Academy look out over the horizon? So when we built the committee, we wanted to have representation within the body. Luckily, you'd been a past faculty. We wanted past parents. We wanted past alumni within the board. That tends to make up the structure of the board, generally speaking. And we did bring in one outside individual because we felt like that his background in the world of business and Damien has been an absolute spot on the way he sees things. And so we wanted to bring what we could do is bring a very structured and oriented way of what the world is now demanding for a best practices standpoint. So, yeah.
Great.
And so I think now as we move forward, we'll continue that in that we will give as much information as possible as we can. We would ask that the community bear with us, knowing that there's only a certain amount of information we can give. So it's the trust part.
Well, it's also a protection.
Correct.
It protects both the school, and it certainly protects anyone who may want to put their information out there and be considered, and yet may not be chosen at the end of the day. So we want to be very mindful that matters.
Right. And that's a great point there, too, as well. We have an integrity piece that we have to maintain. The school and what Kurt has built, and along with Mr. Brown.
Right.
And it's integral of who we are. We have to conduct the way we go about things and at the highest level of integrity, and we're going to do it.
And we're in a world now that if someone knows it, everybody knows it.
Right.
And so protecting that in a world where everything goes viral is just critical to the process.
Yep. And so I think that's when we move forward into this, it's just for the community, we need them to know that we need your trust.
Yeah.
We also need your prayer.
Clearly.
We need that prayer of wisdom and discernment, but I think there's also the knowledge that we're under no preconceived notions either. We may go through this process, and we may not have the candidate.
Amen.
And we don't want to do that. We want to do it right, and we want to do it, but we also want to make sure that we get the right person for the right time.
That's exactly right.
And
which leads me to just the whole point of prayer, the very fact that if everyone who is listening, if every faculty member, every family member is praying, I just believe God has already anointed that next head of school, and all we have to do is just get out of the way and let him show it, point the lights. And
tell the community why I have you. You were telling me earlier today, if you would like to join us in prayer, where can the community go to do that?
Absolutely. If you will go to the baeagles.com website, and you will see a box there that says Head of School Search. Click on that box, and I think about the first thing that pops up will be how you can join our prayer team. They won't inundate you with lots of text, but they will give you at least 1 or 2 a month of verses that we're specifically asking you to pray as if each of us ask God's special blessing on this process.
Well, thank you. I think that may be one thing that gets highly discounted in the world today is that prayer, and
it's foundational.
It's foundational.
Everything we do.
Yes, and the community when the community is praying for one thing, God will answer. It may not be in our time, but it will definitely be in his time.
Absolutely right. Thank you. That's
Is there
true.
anything else out there that's in your mind that you think that the community, staff, faculty would need to know, would want to know?
You know, I think just the assurance that as soon as we can, we're going to get our incredible families and faculty and staff involved in this process.
Yeah.
I would want to know if I were a faculty member. I'd want to know if I were a parent just as soon as possible. So trusting that, just like we're trusting Job Fit Matters to do so much of the vetting for us, then trust the process, pray through the process along with us, and that we'll get you looped in just as soon as we possibly can because you matter.
I think it goes. I think for me, one thing I would say there's families out there
Yeah.
who are looking at this school,
That's right.
and they know we're in a transition.
Yes.
But transitions aren't necessarily a bad thing.
Oh,
We've been fortunate that we've only had 2 head of schools. I think now the national average is about 5.5, 6 years, and so. If there are families out there listening, or our families that are listening to this know of, I mean, rest assured that the mission statement, the statement of faith, the diversity statement, the foundational pieces that built this school are near and dear to the board. They're near and dear to the people who are looking at this role.
Right.
That those are the things that are going to be our guiding, our guide point, our star,
Yes.
As we go forward. And so. If anybody does have any questions, I would ask you to reach out to us. I'm happy to answer what I can. I have a BA email website, I think, or email address, and so does Sue. But happy to address any questions or concern that someone may have, because we want the transition to move as easy and methodical as possible, and sometimes the two are butting heads against each other. So,
Absolutely. And if you click on that head of school search from baeagles.com, there's also your email right there where they can just click and
Yes.
ask any questions that they want to. So y'all inundate Nathan.
yes, I've gotten a
If
few
you-
questions. So, but it's
And to your point about the next head of school, Mr. Brown, I just don't believe there was anyone who could have started a school with a mission like ours, like Mr. Brown. And when the next season came, 25 years later, and God found Kurt Masters to lead us through all the years that he's led us over the last, through the high highs and the low lows of the last 25 years. He was anointed for that time. And I so trust that the third head of school for Brentwood Academy is going to absolutely be the man that God, or the woman that God has ordained.
and that if people are listening and are watching and they haven't gone and seen the interview with Mr. Brown and Kurt,
Yes.
I would challenge you to go back, because there's a lot of people that they come to Brentwood Academy that don't know the history, and you've got Mr. Brown, and so it's a great way to learn about the school, the evolution of the school, what has transpired, and it's a very uplifting story that we all can take a little bit from.
Great history, absolutely.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to my Sue or myself, and we will do our best to answer them.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you, Sue.